Oh, my friends, I didn't see you there. In this wonderful world of mixing, there are infinite possibilities, which make it one of the most creative arts known to mankind. But at some point, we must discern the differences between techniques that work once in a while versus ones that we should integrate into our workflow entirely. And this brings us to the unequivocal technique known as top-down mixing.
Are you going to be doing this bit the entire video?
My friend, you would count yourself so lucky to witness that. Engage with me, my friends, as we go on this journey down the rabbit hole of what is top-down mixing in this series. And I figured since we're doing a video on top-down mixing, my transition game is indeed still crazy. By the end of this series, you will understand all there is to know about top-down mixing and whether or not this technique is correct for you. So, what's happening, fam? Miami here, doing a masterclass with JST, and I, of course, your class master. In this overview, we will be going through every single topic we will be breaking down in this top-down series. But let's start with the most important question of them all. What is top-down mixing? Top-down mixing is a method of audio mixing where the mix engineer brings a rough overall mix together, or sometimes just brings the tracks in, and applies processing to the mix as a whole before delving into individual tracks. This differs from bottom-up mixing, where the engineer starts by processing individual tracks and gradually building up the mix. With top-down mixing, the mix engineer starts by setting the overall balance and tonality of the mix, frequently employing bus processing such as EQ, compression, and reverb on the stereo bus once in a while. This may involve using a stereo bus compressor to bond the mix together, or adding a touch of reverb to create a cohesive space. Once the overall mix has been refined, the engineer can then move on to processing individual tracks, ensuring that they fit into the mix and do not clash with the other elements. And this can entail using EQ and compression on individual tracks, as well as adjusting levels and panning. Top-down mixing can be a beneficial approach for rapidly getting a mix to sound cohesive and balanced, as it allows the engineer to focus on the bigger picture before delving into the tinier details. However, it may not be the best approach for every project, and some mix engineers may prefer a more bottoms-up approach based on the specific requirements of the mix. Now that we have that established, let's go on to what we will be discussing in episode 2 of the series. Episode 2. What should be in your master bus signal chain? This will be a deep dive into the common culprits found in a master bus, the way that the signal chain order will and should go, and the responsibilities and duties of each of the plugins in this chain. For the sake of this series, we will be using the most ironclad signal chain that works, but we'll also explain some options if you would like to spice up your chain to give it its own sonic signature. This episode will apply to those wanting to know top-down mixing, as well as those that simply want to know the functionality of a proper master bus signal chain. As we go through the series, members of this signal chain will also be topics. Now on to episode 3. Finding the right EQ curve, or how to EQ your master bus. One of the most controversial aspects of top-down mixing is setting an EQ curve. Without knowing the source material, how does one have the ability to set and forget an EQ curve? How could you decide what you want applied to an entire mix before you've even imported the source material? Well, there are common issues in specific genres that tend to be repeat offenders as you go through a mix. Should you be using surgical EQs, shelves, or bells? All will be explained in due time, but there is a bell that you can help me with. Notification bell, like button, and make sure to subscribe if you are interested in this series. My segue game is indeed quite fantastic. We will also be going over how to properly EQ match your mixes, as well as the thought process behind using pink noise. If you have no idea what I'm referring to, this episode will be a treat for you. And on to our next episode, episode 4. How different compressors affect your mix bus. Choosing a compressor for your stereo bus can be a daunting task, as there are many different types and models of compressors available. But there are many things to go over and ponder when deciding. But the first should be to determine the goal, correct? What do you want your compressor to do? Do you need a compressor for leveling and control, or are you looking for something to add punch and excitement to your mix? And once you figured that bit of information, you have to start to consider the type of compressor. There are many different types of compressors, including VCA, FET, optical, and tube. Each type has its own sonic characteristics and responds differently to the incoming signals. I actually did an entire video on this in the past, so you can watch it to understand the different types of compressors, but it wasn't focused so much on master buses, and that is why we're going to make an entire new episode for this series. It's going to be quite the tutorial for those trying to dive deeper into the top-down concept. I really hope you're all excited to dive into this series. I've had my own mixed thoughts about top-down mixing myself, but it's time to challenge my own thought process by giving it the time of day. If there are any questions you feel I should cover in this series, please leave it in the comments below, and I will chat with you fine gentlemen and women like I always do. If you're an engineer on the come up, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. You only have to do it one time, and tap that bell for notification so when a video drops, you know the location. Until next time, my friends, I'll see you in the series.